Third race weekend of the BMW IBSF Skeleton World Cup. We're in Innsbruck in Austria, high above the double Olympic city in Austria's Tyrol Mountains. And we're just outside the small town of Eagles at the Olympic Sliding Centre. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to Innsbruck as we get ready for our single heat in the Women's Skeleton World Cup. We have run one heat already, but because of irregularities during the run, not the least of which was some interference from the weather, that run, although it was successfully completed, has been cancelled, so it will be a one-shot wonder. However, the weather may not be playing fair with us. The wind is still swirling snow off the trees and into the track. So, having scratched heat one, let's hope that heat two gets underway happily. We are, of course, here next week as well, so that means if they have to cancel heat two because there is too much snow being blown around, then we have the option of having perhaps another race next week. But again, that's not for me to decide, that's for the jury. They know the rules and it is their job to try and implement them. Well, it was a snowy track in the first heat. It was fairly consistently snowy, but there were changes later on in the runs. Our World Cup points leader with a perfect score so far. 2 starts, 2 wins. Janine Flock of Austria ahead of Kimberly Boss, who's had a silver and a bronze this season. Tina Hermann, a 7th and a 3rd. Elena Nikita, a 9th and a 2nd. And the other medal won by India Tarauda of Latvia. She lies 7th in the points. And just behind them, birthday girl Yulia Kanakana, who turns 25 today, just outside the top 10. Well, there's all the sleds back in Parc Ferme. Final adjustments being made, as they would at any stage. There's India Tarauda, and there is unfortunate Virgin Islands slider Katie Tannenbaum, who hit a broom on the way down the track. It's left in the track by a track worker. She is fortunately okay. Anna Feinstein there from the Czech Republic looking at the video. There's Madeleine Smith of Great Britain, one of the 3 British sliders. And the birthday girl, limbering up like everybody else in the glamorous locale of an icy car park. There is your World Cup winner from last season, Jacqueline Lurling. Jacka also won this race in January. Lena Nikita won it 2 seasons earlier, and her first ever World Cup win came here in the 2012-13 season. There's Kimberly Boss, 2nd in the World Cup rankings right now. A fantastic start to the season for the Dutch girl. And with the wind whistling around our ears, let's take a look again at our start list. They go in exactly the same order as they did in the first heat. So Elena Frolova, the young Russia, will be first off. Alessia Cripper, Nicole, Silvera, and so on. Janine Flock, who led the first heat, goes off in 8th place. And then the rest of them will follow on down. So hoping for 20 clean runs, although the snow may have a little to say about that. I have managed to write down all the times from the first heat so we can compare and contrast and see how our athletes do second time round. Getting race 3 of the BMW IBSF Women's Skeleton Race underway in Innsbruck in Austria is Russia's Elena Frolova, the 24-year-old Muscovite, her 3rd ever World Cup start. And neatly through corner 1 into the long Omega turn 2. Gentle progression down the mountainside here into corner 3, building up speed slowly. You can see there's still quite a lot of blown snow on the track, and actually as that freezes it becomes lumpy and bumpy rather than nice and powdery. Into the 270-degree Kreisel turn, all the lights are on, and they will need them by the end of the heat. Sun is already below the mountains here. And she started 5:44 in the first heat, and her downtime was a 55:10. Let's see what one more trip of experience after 2 in training has done for her, and a 54:91. So that's a sizable improvement for the young Russian. And off a 5.40 start, which was 400ths quicker than the first heat. Now, one of the things you get with gusting wind is it can affect the sled in the track. That doesn't often happen. Most likely to affect you here at the start. If it's blowing into your face, it can certainly rob you of a few hundreds. Exeter 9. A long skid. Down in the lower labyrinth. Things coming at you pretty quickly. So there is Elena Frolova of Russia, our race leader after the first heat, or after the first run of this heat. Next up, also in the foothills of her career, Italy. Why am I saying China? Italy's Alessia Cripper, only the 4th World Cup start for the girl from the Sud Tyrol. And this is her 5th season of sliding. She's done 7 Europa Cup races here. Best finish so far, 17th in Sigulda. 5:47 getaway. Exactly what she produced in the first heat. Alessia 100th behind Elena Frolova. And the speed coming down into the Kreisel is the key for the rest of the run. 2nd best speed. Just a whisker behind Frolova. So let's see if the diminutive Italian can find a little bit more. Track definitely cleaner than it was at some stages in the first heat. Trackworks been out sweeping it for the last half an hour. Whoa, she's very late in the lower labyrinth. Not as painful looking as Emilia Coltman's run in the first heat, but 54.92, 100th behind. She came down 54.94 in the first run. That no longer counts, compared to 55.10 of Frolova. So it all really got away from her there at the highest speed. They're doing 75 miles an hour face first, chin on the ice. And when it starts to zig and you're still zagging, you know all about it. Exit of the Kreisel here, comes over, hits that fillet on the left-hand side. That's where the wall is curved down into the track, but there's a bump that sticks out right by the timing eye there. And again here, very late in the lower labyrinth. This is just a long 75-mile-an-hour crash. So Alessia Cripper lying in 2nd at the moment. With the colours of her home nation of Brazil, Nicole Rocha, Silvera. 4th World Cup start for her. The 3rd as a skeleton slider. She started 1 World Cup with Heather Pace pushing a Brazilian bobsleigh in Whistler of all tracks back in 2017. First time on the European campaign for Nicole. Third best start, 5:51, but she's already got ahead of Alessia Cripper. Again, like everybody else, just 2 runs in training, because there was heavy snowfall at the beginning of the week that wrote off the training days. Big hit off the Kreisel. And here, the ice crackling under the runners of the sled. Old and fast. 1:15.4, 71.7 miles an hour. Nicole Silvera comes down and crosses the line with a 55.19. Third heat was a 55.65. So she's now got 4 trips down the Innsbruck track this week. That's double now the amount that she did in training. So it's not baby steps. At this stage of your career, when you're learning tracks, the progress tends to be pretty rapid. You tidy up 1 error and it makes a big difference. It's when you get to the other end of the scale, as we saw with Martin Stucors and Alexander Tretyakov in the men's race, finding even a few hundredths of a second can be very difficult. And there wasn't even a 100th between them as they tied for gold. Well, Nicole Silvera maybe a few seasons away from that yet. But a good shot of her skidding down from 9 to 10 showed you the bow on the runners of these sleds, not flat at the bottom. They're bowed like a rocking chair. Next up for Italy, Valentina Margalio, 27-year-old bronze medalist in the World Championships in the teams competition. And this is Valentina's 13th. And now again, as in the first heat, she's not entirely sure what she's hearing and whether or not the track is going to be ready for her. There was a hold not pre-announced before she went in the first and now abandoned heat. It tends to be that there is a snow protocol. You will sweep the track every second athlete or every third athlete, and that is decided by the jury in association with the track crew. Track crew being run here by skeleton great Alexander Auer. So there clearly is a hold. But the coaches were not made aware of it, which again is a breakdown between the IBSF jury, who should be able to tell the coaches, and the track crew. Valentina Margalio now blasts off. Had a World Cup best result, 9th place here in January's race. 5:24 getaway. She had a good first run, but that's a noisy little clatter under the camera. And you heard the scraping of the toes as well, trying to steer away from the hit that she took at the top of the upper labyrinth. Out of 6 down into 7, the Kreisel. Best speed so far, hits on the exit, and again. Pinballing around the top part of the track, 98.9, best speed so far. That's 73.5 miles an hour now, 118.2. We'll see 120 from the fastest sleds. Oh, just avoids the wall, 54.23. That was a good run from Valentina Margalio. First heat she came down 54.31, so she has definitely improved on that first heat. And that was a firm top 10 run, you're thinking. Yeah, looks like she thinks so too. Low in the middle in the Kreisel, then came back up and had to steer it off, and that's why you have the hit on the inside. Puts you in the ditch then as you're going into corner 8. Best speed before the Kreisel. Had a good exit from corner 9. From the labyrinth rather, and a good speed, nice straight exit out of corner 9. That all helps. So Valentina Margalio leads for Italy. Fifth of our starters is Tina Hermann. So the world champion and a former winner on this track. Won the World Championships here in 2016, won the World Cup the following year. Has not been on the podium since. Didn't have the greatest first heat. Now, of course, the athletes have had the opportunity, having been down the track once, which didn't count or won't count towards the result, as a sighter, if you like. They now have the opportunity to adjust their sled and also their heads. And Tina Hermann, 2400s behind. And she had, I think, got out to 3500s behind Margalio first time down. So down to 1700s, 100 kilometers an hour. And she should hit 120 at the bottom. She's going to overhaul the Italian here, 119.3. And at the line, she will just be in the green. She is 400ths of a second. There wasn't much in it in the first heat. There's not much in it in the second. If you're 400ths from Tina Hermann, generally, you are doing a very good job. And Valentina was 300ths behind Tina in the first heat, 400ths here in this second run. Just to remind you, this is the only one that will count as the result. So Tina Hermann gets on early, holds the line. You don't want to fight the sled too much, but you don't want to allow its head to go up and down too much, because that leaves you late on the exit. And she avoids the wall. Not quite on the ideal line into corner 8. Again, steering off 9. You saw the toe drag and the Right leg was up, so steering with the knee as well, and then just squirming, trying to stop the sled, breaking into a skid down from 9 to 10. 5 sleds down, Tina Hermann is our leader here in Innsbruck. Next up, Elena Nikitina of Russia. 4th in our World Cup rankings at the moment, with a silver medal last time out in the second Sigulda race. 5:25 getaway, a quarter of a second quicker than current leader Tina Hermann. The question is, will she be ahead at the line? She was 900s quicker than Hermann in the first run. Twice a winner on this track, Elena Nikitina. Her first ever win came here, 2012-13 season, and she won 3 seasons ago as well, the 17-18 year, to take the European Championships here. 100.1 kilometers now, best speed we've seen, remains in the green, but this is where Hermann turns on the afterburners. This looks like a really good run from Nikitina, though. That smashes it out of the park, 53.74. Her first heat was a 54.19. That is a big improvement from Elena Nikitina. So whatever she did at the top of the track, she got it very right. And got it very right all the way down as well. So 54.19 in the first heat. She went 300s quicker at the start than she did first time down the mountain. And then an improvement of 45 hundredths of a second on her first run. That is a big step up. Elena Nikitina could be in the medals. What about her teammate, though? This is Yulia Kanakana, her 25th birthday. One of the stranger races she'll have been involved in, with the first heat being completed successfully and then still being discounted. Last year's race, she finished in 22nd place, when Elena finished in 4th, and it was Yulia's worst ever World Cup performance. It does look like the wind has dropped, so we're not getting so much snow. The snow it's not snowing, it's blowing in off the roofs, and as you can see, there's a lot in the trees as well from the snow on Monday and Tuesday. So it does look as though we're getting a sweep every 3 sleds. And that hopefully will be passed on to the other coaches and athletes. And so you will build in that extra minute or 2 minutes. On the far left of your shot there, here's the man who is in charge of the skeleton jury here. Florian Grassel, former World Cup slider, World Championship slider for Germany. And Florian, well versed in the arts of running races from his time in Koenigsegg. So Yulia Kanakana, 5:34 start in the first heat, but she didn't load well. That's a better load this time. 5:30, and it shows. Let's see what the speed through the first clock is like. Second best velocity to her teammate Nikitina. 1600s back, 3rd fastest slide, 3rd on the split times at the moment. That was a good exit. Down from 6 into the Kreisel. Only the 5th best speed though. Little toe tap and a skid down into 8. And again, dragging the toes out of 9. 7th best speed, it's going away a little. She's still in 3rd place. 2nd and 3rd are 45 and 49 hundredths behind. How close does she get to the leader at the line? Whoa, where did that go? Answers on a postcard, please. That was a second slower than her teammate, 99 hundredths. What did she come down? She came down 54.52. That's a 54.73. 2100 slower than her own first run. Head up there as she adjusts the line. Early exit there, gets sent back up. She had to steer to try and mitigate against it. And again, watch the rudder come out there. Gets the big skid down the straight into 10. Both toes dragging as well. Doesn't look like a lot, but anything that causes friction slows you down. This is not going to be a good run for Yulia Kanakana. The first one was decent. So what about Janine Flock, who led after our first run? She had 2 wins in Sigulda. Two-time World Cup champion leads our points now. The 31-year-old from Austria, silver medalist here in January's race. She was the winner the year before. 5:49 the start. Start area is not where she makes the difference. It's from here on down. 6th fastest start, already 4th best speed through the first trap. And she's going to close the margin down. And she did have very good speed onto the Kreisel in the first heat. Memory serves, she was the fastest at that stage. She's not now. This may not be going her way. Best speed now, 100.5, but she's 4/10 back. Second best speed, really needs 120 and change. Nikitina is going to lead this at the line. By, whoa. Clock, 4,500s back, tied to the 100th with Tina Hermann. And suddenly, the one shot has been redemption for Elena Nikitina. First trip down, Janine Flock was 54.05. Nikitina was 1,400 slower. Second trip down, 54.19 for Janine and a 53.74. So Janine has gone 1,400 slower and Nikitina 2,800s faster. Now that would have left them all but tied after 2 heats. But that's not a 2-heat race. Well, it might be a struggle now to get onto the podium. There are more quick sliders to come. Marmans of Belgium is next up. 40th World Cup race for the little Belgian, 24 years of age, started 11 seasons ago in Königsau, Bavaria. She went to the Christopher Schuler in Berchtesgaden. Started sliding on ice at the age of 13. 5:48 getaway. Now, she had a very disappointing loose first run. Is this going to be redemption for her as well? 9th through the speed trap off the 6th best start. Your instinct says maybe not. Running a little high off the turn, 4-5. And here, the speed being bled away as the helmet and the toes drag on the ice. 8/10 back. This is the slowest run so far. It's less wild, but it's no quicker for that. Not a good day at the office for Marmans of Belgium. She's currently tied with Laura Dees for 5th in the World Cup standings. And only 8th fastest. Now the sled dragging down the wall. That is not a comfortable place to end up. Definitely saying hello to Ander Mirambel, who is commentating for Spanish television back home in Madrid. Great super slow motion view of the start and how smooth ice isn't when you try and lay it on a hill. And again, just letting the sled rattle along underneath you. Eyes on the prize. They've spent a lot of time working and training together. And here, next up, Anna Fernstedt, 10th of our 20 sliders. Spent her career, started off in Berchtesgaden, Bavaria as well. Another product of the Christopher Schuler and Koenigsegg School of Excellence. Went to the Olympic Games in Pyeongchang, finished in a fine 6th position as a German athlete. That was 2018. 2019, she was the junior world champion for Czech Republic. She earned her ticket to come back to the World Cup for last season, and here she remains, still just 24 years old. This is now her 11th World Cup start for the Czech Republic. And she too waiting while they sweep the track. So just trying to keep her head completely in the zone, remain focused. Just picture exactly how she wants the start to go, the transition into the load, the run through the first corner. Key area, one of the key areas that was absolutely immediately you blast off the blocks. Can all go so wrong in the load. Turn one can undo your run as well. Smoothly through. 5.71 the start for Anna Feinstein. First heat she started 5.61. Again, from the German school, she knows how to slide ice. She knows how to make life easy on the sled. And that's what it's all about. Like racing a car, don't make the car work hard. Guide it and let it do all the tough stuff. Second best speed. Still 10th place on the splits, up to 7th place now. Great velocity from Anna Feinstein. She's not going to catch the leader. Is it top 6? It's 5th place for Anna Feinstein. Yeah. 54.58 for her compared to 54.89 first time down, so that's a big improvement. Her best result here, a 14th place finish. Well, no matter what else happens, the worst she can be is 15th, so she could be on for a career Innsbruck high. Her World Cup best results, a couple of bronze medals. Big smile from Anna, that was better. Let's take a look here on the exit of curve 9. Quite a strong steer to get her down, but it brings her down in the middle of the track. And she had very good speed as well, considering the time she was giving away to Nikita at the start. Very nearly half a second behind at the start. And she came down in 5th best time, 84 hundredths back. Well, it may not end up being a top 5 result. Let's wait and see. Jacqueline Lurling, the winner here in January's race. Next up for Germany, 11th of our 20 starters. 5.56 getaway for Jacka. And like her teammates, this is not perhaps their happiest hunting ground. Short track and slow starts don't always make for great bedfellows, but she won here last year. She now has 11 wins and a further 15 podiums from so far 40 World Cup races. This is her 41st start. She's half a second behind Nikita. 4th best velocity at 100 kilometers an hour. Brush on the wall as she sets off into the lower labyrinth. It's getting late. She hangs on and across the line, 5th place, just ahead of Anna Feinstein. So currently, she is the 2nd German athlete. Tina Hermann tied for the silver medal at the moment with Janine Flock. Elena Nikita of Russia is leading. Jacka's first heat, a 54.73. This time, a 54.37. 34 hundredths of a second better. If Nikita hadn't found so much extra, Jacka could have been a little closer in the hunt. The gap first to second is a barely credible at Eagles 45 hundredths of a second. So it's nearly half a second between Nikitina and anyone else. So the Russian had an absolute flyer. Elena Nikitina leads from a tie between Janine Flock and Tina Herman. 12 sled on the ice here. Kimberly Boss of the Netherlands, second in our World Cup standings after 2 medals in Sigulda, a silver and a bronze. Best start to the year for any Dutch skeleton slider. In fact, I would venture for any Dutch ice slider if you're not going round and round in circles on a speed oval. 30th World Cup race for her. She finished 24th here last year. It was a career worst. She's coming off her career best 2 weekends ever with a silver and a bronze. And currently, from 4th at the start, this is another blinding run from Kimberly Boss. Second best velocity. How close is she going to be? Will she be ahead of Flock and Herman? This is potentially a top 3 run. She could be in the silver medal position again. Kimberly Boss of the Netherlands is in the silver medal position. Joske Leconte gives the big thumbs up. Former teammate and now coach. Kimberly Boss, well, whatever she had for breakfast works.
How's later?
That was better. You know how much better? That was 0.4 of a second better than her first trip down. From a 54.42 to a 54.02, and yet nearly a kilometre shy coming down into the labyrinth. She built it the German way, down at the bottom of the track. Well, the former Youth Olympic bobsleigh pusher has certainly turned into quite something this season. Congratulations on a big run from Kimberly Boss. Martins Dukurs kept his winning streak alive today. Not just this season, his 3rd race, his 3rd gold, but here on this track, his 12th straight gold, including the World Championships in 2016. What about his teammate here, India Teralda, her 3rd World Cup race? She made her debut at home in Sigulda with a bronze medal. There is your race leader, Elena Nikitina. She was off the boil, really, in Sigulda, but she has hit the nail on the head today. So what about India? 23 years old, 3rd World Cup race for her. So this is familiar territory. Yes, Sigulda is her home track in her home country, but she started sliding here in Innsbruck at the age of 12. When you're at the track, you'll often see kids sliding lower down in the lower labyrinth. They have a little start house at the ages of 3 or 4. And they start luge here very early. And she started skeleton very early. So this track, particularly now, it's hard, cold and fast and clean, may be a big one for her. 5.62, that's the Achilles heel at the start. 12th best start, 12th best speed. Now let's see what India Teralda can produce further down the run. 11th best speed, picking up a little bit now. And a good exit from the Kreisel. Out of 9, nice and clean down to 10. Appreciation there from the cameraman. 7th best speed, here we go. This is where the knowledge of the track is starting to work for her, where it's fastest and most easy to give it away. 9th best run off the 12th best start. 54.74 for India Teralda. So she looks, I think, rightly happy with that. She didn't write down what her first run time was, but 54.74 for the second one. You have to believe that that is quicker. She comes down 9th ahead of Elena Frolova. And that is a nice exit from corner 9 down to 10. Look how relaxed the body is on the sled. That's the shock absorbing, that's the damping on the sled that stops it skittering around too much. For Germany, 20-year-old Hanna Neiser. Youth Olympic silver medalist in 2016. Junior World Championship bronze medalist last year. And she made her World Cup debut in the 2 race weekends in Sigulda. She was 13th and 14th in those 2. She comes from the same BSC Winterberg club as Jacqueline Lurling. Just a little wriggle as she gets kicked out of the spur down into turn 1, 5.64. A couple of hundreds slower than India Tarada. Ooh. Rattles off the wall at the top of the labyrinth. It all back under control, but hits at that speed, and the speed is low, costs you more. And when the speed is high, you have a greater percentage of your speed, of your potential energy. Second best speed, 100.3 kilometers an hour. Top German is Tina Hermann, tied for 3rd. This is not going to be a top 3 run, but she could be top 6, and at the line she's 7th, just tied with Anna Fernstedt. And how much? 2/10, 2100s behind her club mate Jacqueline Lurling. So let's just regroup a little. Last year's winner, Jacka, is in 6th position. The silver medalist Janine Fock is tied for 3rd. Janine was the winner 2 years ago. Tina Hermann, the winner here 4 or 5 years ago. She's tied for 3rd. And Elena Nikitina, the European champion here on this track 3 seasons ago, is our current leader. And for Hanna Neiser, not a bad exit from 9, just a little busy. Gets herself settled immediately, follow the eyes down to turn 10. Pretty decent looking run. 15th of our 20 sleds here in Innsbruck, Agathe Bessard. Currently in 14th place in the World Cup rankings after a 16th and a 13th place finish in Sigulda. And for Agathe, who joined us for the first time last year in the World Cup for a couple of races, this is World Cup start number 5. Ooh, just drives it up corner 1 and makes the 1-2 into a chicane, as she did in the first heat. Which makes me think that that is actually her approved route through those 2 corners. Start 5.80. Always leaves her with work to do down the ice. That is 2100s quicker than her first start. And that should translate into quite a lot more speed down the track then. 15th on the split times, but the 10th best speed. Lady from La Plagne with plenty going on at the bottom of the track and across the line. 15th place, 55.31. So that is at the tail of the field behind Nicole Silvera of Brazil. She had a 55.93 in the first heat, so that is 0.6 quicker. Big improvement from the first trip down to the second. And again, that's an indication of a relatively new slider, learning all the time in big leaps and bounds. Out of 9, doesn't get the big skid, just steering the sled down to 10. She wants to be more on the right-hand side. See the right elbow coming out just to guide the sled along. So 15 sleds down, 5 to go. In her second World Cup start at the top of the track is Great Britain's Emilia Coltman, the 24-year-old former tennis player. Alessia Cripper is our race leader from Kimberley Boss, with Janine Flock and Tina Herman tied for third. Great Britain's Emilia Coltman made her World Cup debut in race 1 in Sigulda. Teammate Brogan Crowley raced in race 2. Brogan comes up next. So this is the second World Cup start for Emilia. And boy, did the first trip down this mountain beat her up. Well, she looked good down to the Kreisel, and then in the lower labyrinth, she got knocked away from 9 into 10, and suddenly it was a 75-mile-an-hour plane crash. She was thrown around like a rag doll. Definitely going to be needing a lot of physio tonight. Let's see if the second of her trips down is a little better. Well, got to get back on the horse at 3U. So Emilia, the Europa Cup champion last year, her first ever season of racing. Let's see what she's got. 5:63 is the start. Neatly through 1 to 2. The 11th best speed. Now I wonder what adjustments they've made to the sleds. So all three GB sliders looked like they were just losing a little bit of pace the longer the track went on. 13th best speed. If she is being cautious, you can entirely understand that. Out of 9, down into 10, that's better. 11th best speed. 15th place run at the moment, up to 14th place. Get it down safely, I think is possibly what they will have told her. Emilia Coltman across the line, 13th run. Yeah. It takes a bit of courage to do this anyway. It takes a lot more when the track has basically tried to spit you out over the wall. Hats off to Emilia for getting back in and going again.
Hi everyone at home, I'm okay. Thank God.
Yeah, no kidding. And again, you can utterly understand, with nothing else to play for, that get down and get down safe. Very much the motto. You don't learn anything by having another crash other than what you already know, which is crashes hurt. So Emilia Coltman down and done.
Hey.
And next up is her teammate Brogan Crowley. She goes to offer her congratulations to our race leader, Elena Nikitina. And Brogan Crowley for Great Britain next up. 26-year-old making her third World Cup start. Two have been in Sigulda. Born in Manchester, now lives and works down at Bath. Raced here in Europa Cup and Intercontinental Cup. And this is the first World Cup she has started outside of Sigulda in Latvia. That's her World Cup career so far. 8th best velocity off the 6th best start. A little bit of snow blowing into the track, not too much really to distract the athletes. And she is on top 10 pace at the moment. Brogan Crowley needs a good exit here, gets a little knocked away into 10, big early height, needs to get it back under control, steer early onto 11. 12th best speed, dropping out of a top 10 finish. She's going to be around Emilia Coltman. She is just 400s in front of her teammates. So Brogan Crowley 13th at the moment, and Emilia Coltman in 14th place. Well, it's the weirdest of her 3 World Cups so far. Weirdest of Emilia's 2. Again here, Rocha just get on early, gets nudged away by the fillet, and then has to control the sled in the middle of the corner where she doesn't want to be steering, brings it down early, centrifugal force pushes her up late. And that sends you off in the wrong direction. Her eyes are looking right, her sled is sliding left. Down here, dives for the line. Take the hit off the line. That's just one of the things that you do. 3 to go, and Katie Tannenbaum of the Virgin Islands makes her first World Cup start of the season. Last time we saw her was in the 2019-20 season. 19th World Cup start for Katie. Didn't race here last year, but she has raced here before. 23rd in the World Cup race. Last time she was here back in 2017. So she will have a personal best here in Innsbruck if she gets down. First heat, she discovered a broom in the track, which she hit with her head as she flew by it, or into it, at 75 miles an hour. Luckily, no further damage. But you can understand how, again, she might be more than a little apprehensive. Not that you think it's going to happen again, but you can't see round the corners. And again, I think like Emilia Coltman, get it down safely, walk away. And I wouldn't say never look back, but leave it for next week. 56.24 slide from Katie Tannenbaum compared to the 57.89 first heat. Well, that's what the absence of a broom will do for you. And again, as we talked earlier about the smaller nations being helped out by lots of the bigger nations. There you go, found the flag, hasn't been scraped off on the track. Exit 9. A little bit legs all over the place, and it breaks immediately into a skid as she goes over the brow down into 10. Gets it back, tries to sort the line out into turn 10, and diving for the beam, breaks through the timing beam and then takes the hit on the wall. 2 to go. Next up is Madeleine Smith, still racing for Great Britain, but as an independent slider. She's not being coached by the British coaches. She's not staying with the British team. She's an individual team of 1, still flying a British flag. No British kit either, so she's not on a Blackrock. She's on a Bromley sled, which is as different, how can I say it, possibly not as a motorcycle compared to a car, but we're talking that magnitude of difference between the way that the sleds work and the way that you have to work them. So she's doing all sorts of learning. 25 years old, finished 11th in a race here last year. And she was less than a quarter of a second off the leader in the first heat. Had a good first run. I beg your pardon, no she wasn't, she was 1.2 off the lead. So let's see what she can produce here. Seeing if her World Cup best equaling race. She's had 2 8th place finishes here and in Lake Placid, in La Plan rather. Oh, and again a little skid on that final step. 5.61 the start. So let's see what Maddie can produce. Trying to learn very quickly how this sled steers, how it responds to differing ice conditions, how it responds to setup changes that you make. Because those sort of things have to be a bit intuitive, a bit instinctive, particularly when you're on the sled in the track. And if you don't know exactly what it's going to do, it's hard to predict where to put it going into the turns. 13th fastest start, 12th place on splits at the moment, 8th best speed. This is aiming for the top 10. It's a good looking run from Maddie Smith. Very good looking run. Top 10 speed, is she going to be in the top 10? She is just outside, 400ths out of 10th place. That is the top British sled in the field. And for Maddie Smith, a World Cup best of 8th place here. She was 11th last year. She is currently lying in 11th place. And that final step, she's just running a little far. Yeah, that last one, as in the first heat, just gets away from her. So 54.78 downtime compared to 55.27. That's half a second quicker. And finally, new mum Elizabeth Meyer flew from Canada with husband Benny and baby Hendrix over to Innsbruck, to the Meyer family home at the beginning of the season, and have been in Europe ever since. But this is her first World Cup race, having sat out last season as an expectant mother and a new mum. 5.48 getaway. She started 5.38 in the first heat. So she had a good first run down. I want to say hi to Granny Rita, not Mummy Rita, who is also in Innsbruck with her daughter and grandson. Top 10 speed. Another good-looking run from Elizabeth Meyer, and again, as in the first heat, looks like she's not been away. Still cool, calm and collected on the sled. 6th best speed. And this is a good-looking run. Could well be top 6 again. And at the line, she is 7th place. It is victory for Elena Nikitina. She's had to wait for 14 more sleds to come down to confirm that win. And Elizabeth Meyer finishes her run in 7th place as she returns to World Cup action. Well, there you go. She's had better races, she's had worse races, but that's her first ever race as a new mum. Her last race was the final run of the World Championships in Whistler in March 2019. Now in December 2020, she is back. So 2 silver medals here for Elizabeth Meyer, not this year. We have a tie for bronze with Janine Flock and Tina Hermann. Silver has gone to Kimberly Boss, her 3rd medal of the season. But gold to Elena Nikitina. Nikitina the winner in Lake Placid and La Plagne and Sigulda last year. She claims her first win of the season. And Elena, of course, was the World Cup champion 2 years ago. So Janine Flock's golden run has been broken here, although after the first heat it looked like it might not be. She takes a joint 3rd with Tina Hermann, Kimberly Boss the silver, Elena Nikitina the winner. And Valentina Margalio, Valentina in 5th position. That is 4 places better than her previous World Cup best, which was also here. And Dia Taralda just ahead of Maddie Smith, 11th and 12th. And then Broken Crowley, Emilia Coltman, and the rest of them further on down the order. So there is your race winner, a weird race. Elena Nikitina might have won a 2-heat race. In the end, she won a 1-heat race here in Innsbruck. So her first win since February in Sigulda. And Janine Flock, our World Cup points leader, ahead of Kimberly Boss, with Elena Nikitina now moving up into 3rd place, ahead of Tina Hermann. Jacqueline Lurling closes on the rails. Lurling jumps from 9th to 5th position after 3 of our 8 World Cup races this season. So we're still waiting for notification of where the final race will be, but we know where the next one will be. It will be, oh, let me check. Oh yes, here in Innsbruck next weekend. Will the weather play fairer with our athletes? Let's hope so. Until then, from me, Martin Haven, from the IBSF TV crew here, that's it for Skeleton. Bobsleigh starts on Saturday with the first ever World Cup monobob race. Join us then at 10:25. We'll see you then, but it's bye for now. Auf Wiedersehen from Innsbruck.